All right, you guys want a longer video, so here we go. This video will cover all the topics I couldn't cover during the week, and there's a lot of them. And first up, we have Twitter potentially being 75% bot traffic during the Super Bowl. To put that into perspective, TikTok only had an estimated 2.5% bot traffic during the Super Bowl. This is an insanely high estimate, and if it's true, Twitter is just a dead website at this point, which also ties into the fact that Mr. Beast gets paid way more to upload to Twitter than anybody else on the website. Elon Musk said Twitter will be competitive with YouTube ad rates, and it's just not. Jerry Rig Everything put out a tweet with his revenue from Twitter, and it's really bad. He only made $187 for 17 million impressions. As he said in the tweet, YouTube would be a lot more. So yeah, at this point, I am personally convinced that Twitter is just kind of dead. Only paying out $187 for 17 million impressions and the botting is all a bad sign. And in stupid news, we got Aiden Ross, who apparently hired an ex-Marine to help him shoot his Cybertruck. The shooting the Cybertruck part is irrelevant. It's the fact that this ex-Marine almost blew Aiden Ross's foot off.
Oh my God!
And I saw a lot of people say these were blanks, and apparently that's not confirmed. Either way, this is incredibly stupid, even if they were blanks. Here's a video from Kentucky Ballistics shooting a replica of a human head with a blank 10 gauge.
Here we go, 10 gauge blank.
Yeah, Aiden Ross almost lost his foot. And yes, for those wondering, this is a crime. Regardless if those are blanks or live rounds, this is considered negligent discharge, and this can be a felony. And if this guy is a former or current Marine, I feel like he will probably get a felony because out of all people, a Marine should know better. Most of these people, if not all of them, don't have hearing or eye protection, so at least a few of them just got hearing damage. And next up, we have the Kids Online Safety Act, which is supposed to make an effort to keep kids off social media. Kinda. This is really just a way to control the internet. It's a bad bill. It'd require you to give age verification to social media companies. They don't specifically say legal identification, but I don't know what else you could do to verify someone's age besides a checkbox asking if they're 13 or older. I've heard people suggest using machine learning to guess somebody's age based off a picture, but people age differently. And what happens when someone just holds a picture of an old man up to use social media? I don't see a good solution for this. Any way you look at it, this bill would be bad. The only sure way to verify would be ID, but hospitals can't even stop themselves from getting hacked. You think Facebook's gonna care? And next up, we have a quick one. This guy had his Amazon delivery van cut in half by a train. All right, and the next topic is the PS5 Pro. It is heavily rumored that the PS5 Pro will be coming out in the second half of this year. At least it explains why they said the PS5 is in the latter half of its life cycle. They want you to buy the Pro version. I think this is a horrible move from Sony. Sony barely releases any games for the PS5 as it is, and the games for the PS5 already look good and run well. I don't see why people would buy a PS5 Pro. Just like how I don't see why people would believe Elon Musk when he says his brain chip patient moved a mouse cursor. So yeah, this happened, and I think it's a lie. And I think most people also think this is a lie because no one is talking about it. It's also a little weird to claim this with no video proof. I feel like this is something you'd want to share if it was true. And a quick Helldiver 2 update. They upped the player cap to 700,000, so you should see less of the screen now if you want to play. They did say they're expecting to still hit the cap, which is crazy, but you should have an easier time logging in now. Next up, we have a ChatGPT kids toy called Grok. And this is interesting. Once you turn it on, you can talk to it, and it will respond differently most of the time. It has some pretty heavy guardrails in place to make sure it doesn't say anything out of pocket, but I still feel like a kid talking to this will eventually get it to say something out of pocket. It's currently being beta tested with families who agreed to let their kid talk to an experimental AI toy, and assuming this thing works, it'd probably be a good toy for a kid. But that's a big assumption to make. Also, it being called Grok is not an accident. Grimes is involved in this project, and she and Elon Musk have an on and off kind of thing. So yeah, that's why this toy is called Grok, and Elon Musk's terrible Twitter AI is also called Grok. And in more stupid news, we have the Trump shoes. These are ridiculous because they are obviously terrible quality shoes. They're so cheap and tacky looking. Donald Trump tried to peddle these at a shoe convention and got rightfully booed. I don't know why he tried to pull this at a shoe convention, because I think people attending a shoe convention would know if a shoe sucked just by looking at it. He also tried to charge $400 for these, so yeah, he seems pretty desperate right now. Just like how Reddit is desperate for some cash, because they filed to go public, which means soon you'll be able to buy Reddit stock. And if you are a dedicated moderator or user of the website, Reddit is giving you an opportunity to get the stock at the initial offering price, which they didn't have to do by any means. It's a nice way to repay those users for selling their data to Google for $60 million a year to train Google Gemini. And speaking of Google Gemini, Google had to take it down, because sometimes it would just outright refuse to generate images of white people. Now, I haven't used the bot myself, and I can't check because it's been taken down, but it is possible that people broke the bot to get it to do this. But it definitely had some kind of issue, because it would just outright ignore all context, like what a 1943 German soldier would have looked like. All right, next up we got NVIDIA. And with the rise of AI, they have been profiting a lot. They had a 265% increase in revenue over the course of a year, and they reached a $2 trillion market cap. And the single reason for this is AI. NVIDIA just sells GPUs to people who want AI stuff, and people have to buy from NVIDIA because they don't have another option. This is a bit worrying though for GPUs that are catered towards gaming and content creation, because they literally don't have a reason to keep making them at the moment, and NVIDIA GPUs are just better for gaming, recording, and streaming. but who knows? This could be short-term for NVIDIA because they had something similar happen with crypto mining. We'll just have to see. I do hope, though, that they drop prices for GPUs, which will probably just never happen again. And in gaming news, there's a game that just got announced called Kingmakers. And in this game, you play as a man with modern weapons in medieval times. And I just want to say, thank you. It is insane to me it took this long for someone to make this game. I see some potential issues with replayability because by definition, you are overpowered, but I am still looking forward to this game. The Switch 2 is also rumored to be coming out in 2025. This isn't confirmed, it's just a strong guess, but I would be surprised if Nintendo didn't release a new Switch in 2025 because the current Switch is barely holding on with its hardware. But what is surprising is the Borderlands movie trailer didn't immediately make me skeptical of the movie. I played Borderlands 2 a bit when I was younger, but I wouldn't call myself a fan, so to me, the trailer looks okay. The section where they flex Venom and Morbius as an achievement, though, worries me. Like, I think if they left this part out, I would have had a much more positive impression of this movie. I was also worried Jack Black wouldn't be annoying enough as Claptrap, but from the trailer, he seems annoying enough. Overall, it looks like it could be a fun movie, but I'm not getting my hopes up. And next up, we just have a positive story. The US has landed another spacecraft on the moon. And this is a big deal because we haven't done this since 1972. We kind of went up there, checked it out, and never came back. The spacecraft they sent up was about the size of a telephone booth. And this launch was a proof of concept. They're trying to get people excited for space travel again, so companies start competing to get to space. I'm all for it. And I think going to space is one of the cool things we still do, and I want to keep it around. But what's not cool, though, is South Korea fining Twitch a little over $300,000. If you're out of the loop on this, Twitch recently shut down service in South Korea because the telecom laws there are very unfriendly towards international businesses. You get charged an absurd amount of money for traffic in South Korea if you're not a South Korean company. So you're probably wondering, if they shut down services in the country, what's the problem? And it's because they shut down too many services. The South Korean government wanted them to keep VODs up because it wasn't necessary to keep the service alive. And the South Korean government basically told Twitch to prove that if they kept doing VODs, it was gonna hurt their business. And Twitch declined to prove that because they didn't want to give user data to the South Korean government, which could be a cop-out answer, but I do not like this South Korean law. So I'm going to side with Twitch here. From what I can tell, South Korea is basically saying, oh, just keep paying fees for VODs. It shouldn't kill your business, dude. And the only reason they had issues being profitable in South Korea is because South Korean law is hostile towards international business. Like, they're charging them fines because they pulled out of the country because the country charged them extra for traffic. I get that it's supposed to be some consumer protection law and maybe it's really good for consumers, but it just seems absurd that they could push a company out of the country with increased costs they incur by complying with the country's laws and then fine them for leaving the country because they can't afford to operate. Oh, and Twitch also got banned from Turkey as well as kicked because of gambling. And you might be wondering why Twitch they banned gambling. And yes, Twitch banned gambling, but they only ban gambling that doesn't comply with US law. So sports betting on Twitch is all good, but not in Turkey, which is why they're banned. This probably really isn't an issue for people who watch either of these sites in Turkey because the VPN usage in Turkey is about 20%. So a lot of people online are already circumventing these blocks. And speaking of online, AT&T was not online for kind of a long time. There was a service outage that lasted 13 hours, and people are kind of concerned because it seems like all cell service went down in those 13 hours. T-Mobile and Verizon both claim they had no issues, but a lot of people disagree. Verizon says it could have been people trying to call or text people that have AT&T, which would make sense because T-Mobile and Verizon have a lot less outage reports, and there was a lot of talk about people calling 911, and if 911 uses AT&T, yeah, you're not going to reach 911. Still, it is very concerning that AT&T went down for that long with how many services rely on AT&T. And the Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree DLC got announced and will be released on June 21st. This trailer is hype. This DLC is definitely worthwhile if it's quality when it comes out, which it should be because From Software usually does good work and it's got enough content. They're adding a whole new map, dungeons, 10 new bosses, and more. And the base cost of the DLC is $40, which I think is fine with how much content they've added. This is how I personally want DLC to be. You pay more, but you get a lot of content, and it's actually good content, and there's various versions at different prices, including the Collector's Edition, which looks insane. I'm not even that big of an Elden Ring fan, and I want this. But that's all I have. Let me know if you like this format. Like and subscribe if you're new, and click the answer to check out all my content, and have a good one.